Professor back at it again with a brand new video. As you can see, it's November 16th, and I got everything laid out for tonight's slate, all 11 games, and I'm here to break it down and make it a lot simpler for you guys. I got a lot of hate because I was like moving my hands around or something. I don't know. I was just like, I like talking with my hands a lot, so like that's why I do that. But I got like a few messages and like comments saying like, dude, why are your hands so weird? Why are you doing that shit? And I'm like, dude, just who I am. I was just like, I like talking with my hands when I explain stuff. But anyway, let's get into the recap. A lot of my guys did very, very well that I recommended. As you can see, starting with DeMar DeRozan, 45.5 fantasy points. Kyle Lowry, 57.25 fantasy points. LeBron James, 62.25 fantasy points. Kevin Love, 43.25 fantasy points. Tristan Thompson, 31.75 fantasy points. Kyrie Irving, 38.75. Whiteside, 58.75. He did very, very well against the Atlanta Hawks. Even though they lost. Kemba Walker, 55.25. Wiggins, 39.50. Jimmy Butler, 49.50. Nick Batum, 42.75. D'Angelo Russell, 56. Julius Randle, 52.5. Lopez, 55. Clarkson, 32. So if you watch my other video, you probably won some money. If you used any of these picks, that was a combination of the winning lineup as follows. If you use my lineup in particular, it was 279.5 fantasy points that it scored. If you would have swapped Jerry and Grant for Isaiah Cannon, they were the same price. You would have got over 300. You would have got around, what was it? The total, I plugged in the total, and it was around like 308 to 310 range, which is very, very good, and that could win you some decent money in tournaments. Not the best lineup, but I'm giving you optimal lineups that you can use to win any GPPs that you may be encountering. All right, now let's get into today's slate. It's 11-game slate. I usually don't do these breakdown videos. I usually just sit down and talk, but I found enough room on this whiteboard, and I wrote everything out. So without further ado, let's get started. First game of the night, you got Washington and Philadelphia. It's a 208 over-under. I like John Wall in this particular situation, 9,200, going up against Sergio Rodriguez. Can't guard him. Gerald Henderson, Jared Bayless, if he's back from his D-League stint. 9,200 is a great, great price, and he's very, very under-owned compared to the higher guys on the slate, like the Lowrys, the Leonards. Not Leonards, Currys, stuff like that. At 9,200, he's one of your elite point guard options, and he's a contrarian play to some of those other point guards on tonight's slate. Otto Porter, 6,500. Robert Covington does not play good defense. I like targeting guys specifically against wings against the 76ers. Otto Porter, his price is very, very high. He's like a mid-tier price. His price might be way too high. FanDuel, I think it's a lot cheaper. But at 6,500, he's a high-risk, high-reward type of guy. So if you like GPPs and you want to use him, go right ahead. I don't think a lot of people will be on him tonight. That's why I'm suggesting. Markieff Morris, 6,100, going up against, who's their power forward? Dario Saric, Ersan Ilyasova. Doesn't scare me. Markieff Morris should go to work, and he should drop at least 30 to 35 fantasy points tonight, in my opinion. Marcin Gortat, 6,400. He seems very, very underpriced at the center position. Center stacked tonight with a lot of good centers tonight. So if you wanted to pivot, Marcin Gortat is a great spot to do so. And the only other guy I like on Philadelphia, obviously, Joel Embiid, 6,100. Even though he's only getting around 24 minutes a night because that minutes restriction, he's certainly giving you more than enough value on your investment in him if you were to play him. All right, next game on the slate, you got New Orleans and Orlando. Sorry, I'm like so tired today. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Stayed up watching the game, but we get into it. New Orleans, Orlando, 201 over under. Buddy Hield is one guy I like in particular against the Orlando Magic. Orlando's not a good defensive team at all, but if there's one area I'd like to target, it would be the shooting guard position. And if Buddy Hield gets the playing time at 3,500, he gives you that 7 to 8x upside. So I like him a lot at 3,500. Anthony Davis also, the Bigs haven't been playing well defensively, and they're coming off their second win of the season. They might go for 3 straight. They just beat the Celtics by 1 point, which is insane. Like, I would never expect them. they're like one of the worst teams in the league. But AD 10,900, he's your elite power forward of the night. Demarcus is cheaper, like 1,000 cheaper, but I'll tell you why I like Demarcus more. But at 10,900, going up against Serge Ibaka, Nikola Vucevic, Biyombo, doesn't scare me a bit. He should be in line for at least 50 fantasy points tonight with that high upside, as we know, of 70 to 80 fantasy points. He is their entire team, so go ahead, put him into your lineups. You can fade him if you want, do whatever. I'm just suggesting some of these guys that you should use in tonight's slate. On the flip side, you got Elfrid Payton, 5,800. I like targeting guys against Tim Frazier, and he's going to get the minutes. Payton's been playing very, very well this year. He's had that triple-double upside almost every single game, and I really, really like him in this spot at home. They're coming off their win against Oklahoma City Thunder, so I feel like they'll be motivated to win again against a depleted New Orleans squad. Other guy I like, Evan Fournier, 5,700. Buddy Hield is not the best defender at all, but Fournier's in line for those heavy minutes. He gets roughly, I think it's like 32 to 35 minutes per night with that high upside of like 40 minutes. So the minutes are locked there at 5,700. He's a very, very safe play if you want to use him in cash games or in tournaments, because he's like that dual eligibility for either kind of tournament, because I like him at that low price, and he's a great play. Bismack Biyombo is another guy at 4,000. They're going to need defense, especially in the front court tonight. Going up against Anthony Davis, they need a way to stop him. Biyombo might be their only option. So if they were going to pair like Ibaka and Biyombo, or Vucevic and Biyombo, or one of those other common, Aaron Gordon, stuff like that, Biyombo is their defensive center. So they might put him in and play him more minutes tonight. And at 4K, I like him a lot. All right, third game on the slate, you got Cleveland, Indiana. It's a 2-9 over/under. On Cleveland's side, I like LeBron James at 9,800 and Kyrie Irving at 7,600. Now, we saw what they did to the Toronto Raptors yesterday, but LeBron is in the body of a 19-year-old. So at 9,800, he gives you very, very high upside. As you see down here, he dropped 62 fantasy points last night, and he's worthy of coming alive, even though he's playing like 30 to 36 minutes per night. He needs to step up in these games, especially on the road against Paul George. If LeBron doesn't lock him down, Paul George is going to have a great game. That's why I like him a lot for tonight. On the flip side, Kyrie Irving, 7,600. I like targeting guys against Jeff Teague in particular. And at 7,600, he offers very, very high upside. And I feel like he'll drop a 40 to 50 fantasy point game. That's my prediction. Even though it's on the road and they're on a back-to-back, he should be their leading scorer on this year's squad. So another guy I like on their team, Kevin Love, 7,800. He offers very, very high value going up against Miles Turner, who's not doing as well defensively, but offensively he's doing very well. And Al Jefferson, so it doesn't scare me a bit. And on the flip side, the only other guy I like on the Indiana's team is Jeff Teague at 6,500. Kyrie is not the best defender, but all those other guys are going to cancel each other out. Jeff Teague should be one of their focal points on offense, specifically because they just traded for him anyway. All right, fourth game on the slate, Dallas and Boston, 204 over/under. Seth Curry is the guy I like at that mid to low range tonight, 4,600. He provides very, very high upside going against the Boston Celtics, even though they're stacked at the guard depth. But if this turns into a blowout, which I think it will, and I think Boston's going to blow them out, so Curry should be in line for at least 30 minutes tonight with that high fantasy upside of 40 fantasy points for tonight. Isaiah Thomas, 8,000, and Avery Bradley at 7,100. Dallas Mavericks are very, very banged up right now. The only good guy they have is Harrison Barnes, but IT and Avery Bradley should go to work on their backcourt and should each provide, I say Isaiah Thomas provides 40 fantasy points, and Bradley might give you 35 fantasy points. He's very, very consistent, like I've said, so he's a great spot at that 7,100. He's very, very safe cash game as well. Al Horford, if he plays, I put a question mark up there because I don't know if he'll be playing. I don't know by lineup lock if we'll know if he's playing. But if he is playing, he's a great play. going up against Andrew Bogut, who's their power forward? Amir Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Zeller. Doesn't scare me a bit. If he plays, he should at least drop 30 fantasy points with that playing time, and they're going to need him to get adjusted to playing because he hasn't been playing in a while. Yeah. So 5th game on the slate, you got Milwaukee and Atlanta. It's a 207 over/under. Atlanta's coming off a back-to-back win, going up against. They just won by 3 points against the Miami Heat. I watched that game last night. I stayed up till like 12 watching that Brooklyn Lakers game. That was insane. But besides the point, it's a 207 over/under, and I saw, even though the Atlanta Hawks have won like 5 straight games in a row, this should be a fairly tough matchup. You can see by that 207 over/under. I like Giannis in particular at 9,000. I don't think anyone on Atlanta is going to stop him. Who are they going to put on him? Paul Millsap, Dabo Cephalosha. I mean, these guys aren't quick enough to stop him, especially a guy that's like 21, 22 years old. At 9,000, he justifies that point guard value, and he's a nice pivot from John Wall, if you think John Wall is one of the higher elite options on tonight's slate. Jabari Parker, I like 6,300. Paul Millsap has not been doing well defensively. He's shown signs of regression, especially this year. But at 6,300, he's at a great price at that mid-tier level. On the flip side, you also got Paul Millsap, 7,400. He hasn't been playing particularly well. I said you should put him in over half your lineups yesterday, and of course, he only had I think he had 39 fantasy points or 32, something like that. In the 30s, I know that. But at 7,400, he doesn't fully justify the price. But I feel like tonight could be one of his breakout games. So for that reason alone, I put him in and suggested him for this game. Also, if Dwight Howard is out, Thiago Splitter is also out. So Mike Muscala should be starting, and he should get those starting minutes with one of their D-League guys backing him up. 6th game on the slate, you got Detroit and New York. It's 203 over/under. I like Tobias Harris, 6,500. He's coming back home. He's from Long Island, New York. So I like that home narrative. He's coming back home. And I thought he was going to sign with the Knicks in the offseason, but I guess the Magic retained him. I don't know how, but 6,500. He dropped 41 fantasy points in the previous game, and I suggested him. And nobody should be able to stop him, especially if he's going up against Melo or Porzingis. I mean, he's an animal. He should be in line for at least 32 minutes tonight, and he has that high fantasy upside of 50 to 60. At that mid-tier price range, he's a very, very good play. If Andre Drummond is out, Aaron Baines at 4,400, going up against Joakim Noah, not the best defensive center, but pretty sturdy in my opinion. At 4,400, he offers very, very high upside for tonight. As we've seen, he dropped 31 fantasy points in that previous game. KCP at 5,000. Courtney Lee, Derrick Rose, doesn't scare me a bit. Who they throw on him at 5,000. I feel like he's going to have a very, very nice game tonight, and I feel like he's going to have one of those 40 fantasy point games. He's as streaky as they come, and at 5,000, his price has climbed to probably its highest point. If he doesn't do well this game, his price will come back to earth, but I feel like tonight he'll be able to justify his price. Carmelo Anthony and Joakim Noah. Carmelo Anthony, 7,500. He should be their leading scorer on this team. And with that being said, at 7,500, it's at a great price at that mid-tier level, at that small forward position. There's 11 games on the slate, so you're going to have to find ways to differentiate elsewhere. But Carmelo Anthony, go ahead, get him into your lineups, especially for tonight. On the flip side, if you want to use Baines or Joakim Noah, it's up to you. Joakim Noah going up against a backup center, I like that. It's favorable just because of that. But Aaron Baines is sturdy defensively. And even if Drummond was out, I saw what they did to OKC, and they blew them out of the water with Baines starting. So I like Baines starting. I hope Drummond sits out for longer, so they realize they don't really need Drummond as much. Maybe they'll win more games with Aaron Baines. I don't know. But we'll just see how it works there. All right, 7th game on the slate, you got Golden State and Toronto. It's a 218 over-under. I particularly like Durant at 9,500. Oh, it was my pen. Sorry about that. Durant at 9,500. Kyle Lowry and DeRozan are locking down Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And DeMar Carroll shouldn't be playing in this game. Durant might have Terrence Ross on him, but I've seen games where Terrence Ross has guarded Kevin Durant in the past, and I really, really like Durant at that 9,500 price point. He's an elite option, as you can tell by his price, but he fully justifies his value, especially if Curry and Thompson are locked up. So Durant should be open to drop another 50 fantasy point game. Draymond Green as well, 8,200. If Patrick Patterson, Pascal Siakam, Jonas Valanciunas doesn't scare me a bit at 8,200. He's going to get you that triple-double tonight, no doubt, in my opinion. On the flip side, Kyle Lowry, 7,700. Curry is not the best defender on the flip side. So at 7,700, he's a nice pivot if you wanted to take another gamble, not with Stephen Curry. Because I feel like Lowry, even though they're on a back-to-back and they just lost to the Cavs, it was a very close game. And tonight should be no different. It should be a hard-fought game. And I don't feel like it'll be a blowout, as you can tell by that 218 over-under. There's a lot of high over-unders tonight, and I'll tell you which games to stack. Jonas Valanciunas at 6,000. The Warriors are not particularly well at guarding the rim, and that's apparent with Zaza Pachulia not being able to guard some of the bigger guys. So with that being said, at 6,000, he's a great play for tonight. The one game I wanted to target tonight, Houston OKC reunion. James Harden going up against his former squad in Russell Westbrook and those guys. But what I'm going to do in one lineup is I'm going to pair Westbrook, Harden, and KD, and pump the others and see how that goes in a 25-cent tournament. High risk, high reward. You got to find value somewhere, and there's value on teams. You just have to look at that at those punt plays, and they're there. But I'll try to highlight some as we go down. James Harden, 12,200. Similarly priced to Westbrook at 11,900. But Harden offers that very, very high upside, especially on the road. The OKC Thunder have lost 2 in a row. I don't feel like they'll lose 3 in a row, but you never know. They lost to the Magic by that game winner by Serge Ibaka. They just lost to the Pistons. They got blown out by like 12, 13 points. I feel like they're going to come back hard, and Thunder should easily win this game tonight. I feel like they're going to step up, but Harden's going to give you that triple-double, so will Westbrook. So that's why I like pairing them both, especially when they're going against each other and they're guarding each other, which should be very, very interesting. Sorry about that. Ryan Anderson at 5,200, going up against Sabonis, doesn't scare me a bit. Go ahead, get him into most of your lineups tonight. Victor Oladipo, 5,500, and Steven Adams, 5,500. Oladipo, I like him in particular. Eric Gordon doesn't scare me defensively. Oladipo is their second option on their team. If Westbrook's being shut down, Oladipo should do well tonight. And I feel like tonight he'll drop a 35 to 40 fantasy point game, especially if Westbrook's being heavily guarded, which I think they might do, even though Houston is not a great defensive team. Steven Adams as well, 5,500, going up against Clint Capella. Adams was involved in that James Harden trade, and I feel like Adams is going to go to town on the Houston Rockets tonight. 9th game on the slate, you got Phoenix and Denver, 219 over-under. Eric Bledsoe at 6,400 seems very, very low, especially for him, who's a mid-all-star caliber talent. And at 6,400, he fully is able to justify his price, and he should drop a 40 to 50 fantasy point game tonight. That's why I like recommending him. TJ Warren at 6,700. I like targeting small forwards against Denver in particular. Wilson Chandler, Danilo Gallinari, those guys don't scare me a bit. Wilson Chandler is questionable for tonight, so I don't know about recommending him fully. But TJ Warren at 6,700, he's their leading scorer on that Phoenix team. So I thought Devin Booker was going to be, but TJ Warren came out of nowhere. So at 6,700, he is fully able to justify his price, and he gives you that 7 to 8x upside at that mid-tier price level. Nikola Jokic, 4,700. The coach said how he wanted to use Jokic more at that center position and not Nurkic. So they might get Jokic more minutes, especially because of how well he did in his rookie season last year. So this is a great spot. I like targeting big guys against Phoenix in particular, especially if they're without Tyson Chandler. Alex Len is not one of the best defenders. He's more of an offensive guy first. but that's really it. Emmanuel Moody at 5,700. I like targeting both of these guys against each other. Moody at 5,700 intrigues me a lot, and I feel like he's in line for at least 30-35 minutes tonight, and he provides very, very high upside as well. Last two games, I'm so tired, guys. We're almost done. San Antonio and Sacramento. It's a 198 over/under. I like Kawhi Leonard in particular at 8,700 going up against Sacramento. Rudy Gay is not one of the best defenders. Kawhi Leonard should shut him down tonight, and I don't feel like Rudy is going to have a great game, especially if Sacramento's at home, but San Antonio's on the road. I still feel like Kawhi should shut down Rudy Gay tonight, and he shouldn't have a lot of fantasy value. But at 8,700, he's going to get you those steals, those defensive stats, as well as the offense. He's their leader of the franchise, and he's in a great spot tonight, as well as Lamarcus Aldridge, 6,600, very, very low for a guy in particular who last year was in that 8 to 9K range. 6,600 is a great play. I will be playing him in almost half my lineups tonight. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate, as well as Demarcus Cousins, 8,900. Is he the top center on the board? He's a power forward center, dual eligibility, so you can pick and choose how you want to use him. But at 8,900, he provides that 50 fantasy point upside, especially going against the Spurs, who have Pau Gasol defending the center position, which doesn't scare me that much. All right, last game on the slate, you got Memphis and Los Angeles Clippers. It's a 198 over/under. We saw what Chris Paul did to the Brooklyn Nets last game, but these guys played a few weeks ago, and Chris Paul dropped 66 fantasy points on the road against the Memphis Grizzlies, with Mike Conley guarding him most of the game. But, you know what, I'm thinking about it now. I might actually want to recommend Mike Conley for this game. Use Mike Conley and Chris Paul in one of your lineups tonight. Mike Conley had like 57 fantasy points, and Paul had 66. It was like a crazy game. It was like a battle of the point guards, I guess. But Paul, 8,800, he's a great price and a great value for tonight at that point guard spot. Great pivot from John Wall if you want to try to differentiate your lineups. Blake Griffin, 8,400, going against JaMychal Green. Zach Randolph doesn't scare me that much, so I like him at that spot at 8,400, as well as Marc Gasol, 6,200. DeAndre has not been doing as well, and with that being said, Marc Gasol is one of their main focal points on offense. At 6,200, he provides that high value, and he justifies his price. All right, we're done. So thank you guys so much for watching. Tune in for more next week. Not next week. Every single day. I post videos every single day. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.